I felt very lost.
Right.
Because I knew I didn't fit in with straight people.
Right.
But I was also very much made to feel that I didn't belong with queer people either. And I felt like I just kind of existed in this little bubble outside where I didn't have a community. I didn't have people. And I would just kind of sit there and feel very alone about that. I felt like if I went to any pride events, I'd get yelled at because I wasn't gay enough. And then if I tried to hang out with the straight people, I'd sit there and be like, but I'm not really like you.
Not as horny as all of you
Yeah,
people.
I'm a much more reasonable person. Good Lord.
So dignity, please.
Yeah, but like as a baby asexual who was still learning all this stuff and still just learning about the queer community in general, it was very alienating. And I didn't feel comfortable with myself for a very long time.
This is Single and Probably Asexual with Kendra K.
And we are doing a podcast recording via Zoom. Our first one, my first one. Well, our first one, since we're all doing it together.
Wonders of technology.
I'm so excited. I actually met Tori and Adair. They hired me for a best friend boudoir photo shoot, and it was the best. And what was so adorable about the two of them is they had like this entire week planned where they did all of these best friend activities. They got matching tattoos and septum piercings. They went to Seattle. They got a boudoir session done by me. It was just, I loved it. So you guys are just adorable, and I love your cute friendship. And yeah, I'm excited to talk to you both about asexuality because I remember that day when you both were getting your hair and makeup done before the session. I think it was Adair, you just kind of like mentioned, you were like, oh yeah, we're both asexual. And I was just like, what? That's awesome. Yeah. And then, yeah. So since then, and then I mentioned like, I was like, because that was forever ago. It wasn't like forever ago, but I was like, oh, I'm thinking about doing a podcast. Anyways.
Well, we both saw you post on Instagram and we're just like, oh my gosh,
I did it. I did it. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to let both of you quickly introduce yourself, and then we're just going to start talking about stuff.
All right. Well, I'm Tori, and I'm 23, and I am married and have a brand new baby. They're 8 weeks old. And yeah, that's just the surface level. The surface level is me.
I'm Adair. I'm also 23. I don't have a baby, but I borrow Tori's now and then. I do have 4 rats, which count as my babies. I'm a recent graduate, got my design degree. That's about what's going on in my life right now.
Nice. And they are best friends.
Yes, yeah. Since 8th grade.
Yeah, we met in 8th grade health class.
I love it.
Tori gave me goldfish and cemented the fact that she'd have this little weirdo following her around all the time.
And then you had me at goldfish. It was from true love, true platonic love from there on out.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, I love this. Well, yeah, like I said, when I was doing their session, I just thought it was so cool because like, obviously asexual and being asexual is like a thing, but it's still not highly talked about when it comes to like the spectrum of all the queerness and everything. So just to hear you like, so like, you were just like, oh yeah, we're both asexual. And I was just like, oh my God, that's just so cool. Like, that's so cool. Like, it's like you're owning, like, you know, you're like, yes, I'm asexual. And I've just have always been so curious to like know more about like your guys' individual stories, especially going like being asexual and like being asexual in high school. Cause that, because like, I mean, I was probably in high school a solid like 10 years ago. And back then it was still like okay to be gay, but it was still not okay to be gay. So like, I couldn't even imagine like, you're like, hey, I'm queer and asexual. Like, I want to know like what all of that is like, but we're going to get into that. But I'm going to start off with like the most basics of questions for each of you. And you both can like kind of like answer one after the other. And yeah. But when did you both realize that you were asexual?
So for me, I like knew for sure in about I think sophomore year of high school. I know it was like around 15, but I started having like an inkling of it all the way back in like seventh, eighth grade. Because that's when they start doing, sex ed and all that sort of thing, and hormones, puberty, and people would talk about like, oh, this person's really sexy, right? And I didn't get it. I'd be like, yeah, they're pretty. I don't get horny about it. Like what, you know?
Yeah.
And so, but then I didn't have a word for that. I didn't know. I for a few years thought like there was something genuinely
Wrong.
medically wrong with me.
Right.
But you know, sex ed, we were barely better than abstinence only sex ed at our middle school. And so I didn't have the words to talk with that, talk with my parents about that.
Right.
It was an embarrassing subject to bring up. So I just kind of was like, well, if it gets bad enough that I'm dying, then I'll talk about it.
It's not a pressing issue in this moment. It's just something that feels off.
Whatever.
I know, but you didn't feel comfortable enough to even like voice what you were feeling because you were just like in the dark with it.
Yeah, I had no clue. Like people would be talking about wanting to have sex and all. I'm like, why though?
Yeah.
In high school. Ew.
Yeah. No, exactly. And that was another thing that should have been a tip off. I was like, yeah, okay, I'd love to date. I'd love to have romance, but like I want to finish school first. That should be more important,
Right.
And so, and also I think a big aspect of this is I did grow up in Texas. I lived there until I was 12. And even though I lived in a more metropolitan, more liberal area of Texas, it was still very conservative. And I honestly did not know there were any queer identities outside of homosexual.
Right.
Yeah. And so I finally started learning about all these other identities in, early high school. And I still, started having like internet access and, hearing about that. I had friends who had come out as queer and I wanted to understand it. And finally, I found the term asexual and I looked it up and I read it. I'm like, oh my God, that's me. I'm not sick.
Right. Nothing's wrong with me.
There's nothing wrong. Like, that's just that people can be this way and it's fine. And I was like, oh my God, that's great. Thank goodness. I'm not
I'm not dying. No.
I'm not broken. I'm not I don't have some weird disease. Yeah.
That's amazing. Tori, what about you?
Yeah. So I actually didn't realize I was asexual until the first year of my marriage. So that would have been, I got married the day after I turned 20. I grew up in a Christian family. And so that was kind of I never dated people if I couldn't imagine myself living the rest of my life with them. So it was very much that was the next step for me and my now husband was to immediately get married because,
yeah. Which I mean, the concept of I'm not going to seriously date someone unless I can see a future with them. It's not a bad idea, but with the Christian overtones of it, it's
definitely
kind of like saying there's only one way to do something. That kind of
dating, I think, in my mind, dating is getting to know somebody because you can't make that judgment call right away. I mean, there are definitely people that you can for sure say, I definitely can't see myself with this person, but dating should be fun. It should be getting to know somebody. It shouldn't be so serious.
We've been growing for years.
I mean, yeah. But yeah, so I didn't realize that I was asexual until the first year of my marriage because sex was only a concept to me for a long time. And I, while in high school, thought I was either an amazing Christian for not, being tempted into sex so easily as Olive, but also maybe there's something wrong with me because I'm not tempted, right? Like I thought I was a brilliant, perfect Christian for having not had all of those temptations, but at the same time being,
and it was funny because in high school, basically once I realized, I like came out to my friends. And so I was openly asexual. And sometimes Tori would say things.
Uh-huh.
She was dating, and she would say things, and I'd be like, that's me though. And I'd be like, I think so, do you think you could be asexual? And she'd be like,
yeah, because you guys had already been friends for a while since then.
Yeah. So Adair basically
I
pegged
knew.
me as asexual right away. She was like, yeah, you might be asexual. And I was like, well, that's a queer identity, and I'm a Christian. I can't be queer. That's just, being a good Christian and not wanting to have sex to marry. And then I got married and was like, okay, so I still am feeling this way. But basically what finally pushed me admitting to myself that, oh, I am asexual, it's because I'm also biromantic. And I was on TikTok, as we all were in the beginning of the pandemic. And was seeing all these gorgeous women and going, wow, these women are absolutely gorgeous, and am I attracted to women? And then, am I bi? Having those questions, and then thinking about like, well, sex with women also does not sound appealing. And then kind of thinking about it as like, wait, but sex with men also doesn't sound appealing. And finally, those two things clicked together, and I was like, oh, that's the answer. I'm asexual biromantic.
Yeah.
Right.
All of the pieces have fallen into place.
We have the exact same identity too.
Yes. Yeah.
And so wait, I have a question. What is biromantic? Because you said it's not bisexual. Enlighten me. Oh my gosh. I love it.
So there are different types of attraction, right? There's sexual, romantic, platonic, aesthetic. And so asexuality is an umbrella of
lack of sexual attraction. But I also have romantic attraction. So romantic attraction is going to be more so of, I want to date people, I want to be in relationship with someone, I want to potentially live with somebody, I want to create a life with somebody. The romance.
So there's with either gender, because it's bi romantic.
So there's also aromantic, which is not having romantic attraction as well.
So not all asexuals are aromantic, and not all aromantics are asexual.
Exactly.
Yeah. So just how you have homosexual, bisexual, pansexual, asexual, you can have homoromantic, biromantic, panromantic, aromantic.
Right. Wow.
So it's just the different levels of attraction.
Right. Yeah. That's amazing. I need to look into this more. Obviously, I mean, like I said, like I'm baby asexual compared to the two of you. So
you just unlocked a memory for me when you were talking about when you realized you were bi. You just like unlocked this. At the same time when I was like questioning what the hell was wrong with me in 8th grade of like why I don't want to have sex with people, I was kind of, at one point I went like, maybe I'm bi, because like I felt the same way towards boys and girls, and I wasn't and I was like, am I bi?
Like
and
then still asexual.
And it was so funny because I was thinking about it and was like kind of worried about it, and then I went, well, why does it matter? I'm not going to date until I'm out of high school anyway. And then I just like
shoved it to the back of your mind.
Just like, it doesn't matter. And then I got to college. I'm like, now it matters.
Well, like not years and years, but years ago, bi people kind of would bring asexual people into their group because they have the same amount of attraction towards all people, right? It's zero attraction for asexuals, and more than that for bi people.
More towards the beginning of the queer movement, before there was really an umbrella term for asexual, than the different types of asexual. They were just considered to be part of the bi community. And so there's very much solidarity there.
Right. So there, everything was just kind of thrown under the bi umbrella. And then it was like, wait, no, pansexuality, asexuality, like it's not just like man, woman. It's like, I'm attracted to everybody, and it doesn't matter if they could appear to have no gender. Like it doesn't, that's so cool. Yeah. I didn't know that though. That's so interesting. please continue throughout the rest of this podcast if you have any more like good tips, because like I said, I am a baby asexual, and one of my episodes I really want to dive into like the history of it and like how the term came along, what were people using to, classify or call people who are asexual before, all this stuff. So yeah, if you have any more like literal truth nuggets, drop them.
Oh, I do know this has been kind of lost because I want to say maybe 5-6 years ago, there was kind of this movement, which I think very much kind of went in hand with the TERF movement of saying asexuals weren't really queer. Especially if you happen to be asexual and heteroromantic, you weren't queer. And in that, during all this, asexuality became kind of like this cringy thing, and like,
it wasn't under any umbrella. It wasn't under being straight or queer. It was just kind of
and so there was a lot of asexuals don't belong in the community unless they're also queer in this way or this way. So a lot of things that were like, there was asexual culture, but a lot of that just kind of got
lost
because people felt ashamed. People went back in the closet about being asexual because they were getting harassed about it, and it was a very online thing. Most people in real life, I mean, obviously these people who say these things on the internet exist in real life, but they're much louder on the internet than in real life. And in real life, the reasonable people, would win out, but online it was a very big thing. And so I remember there was one thing to identify as asexual. People who are ace would wear a black ring, just a black band. Mm-hmm. And that would be like, oh, okay, that's my person. Those are my people.
Which continues to this day.
It started up again, and so now that we've kind of squashed that a little bit more, and more people are comfortable with being asexual, it's starting to come back. The whole asexual cake, right? Of like we'd rather have cake than sex. And so like during Pride, there would be like, are you asexual? Come up and meet us for a party. We're just gonna eat cake, right? Like, so it's starting to come back, and I'm so glad about that, because especially before I realized I was biromantic and I thought I was just heteroromantic and asexual, I felt very lost.
Right.
Because I knew I didn't fit in with straight people.
Right.
But I was also very much made to feel that I didn't belong with queer people either. And I felt like I just kind of existed in this little bubble outside where I didn't have a community. I didn't have people. And I would just kind of sit there and feel very alone about that. I felt like if I went to any Pride events, I'd get yelled at because I wasn't gay enough. And then if I tried to hang out with the straight people, I'd sit there and be like, but I'm not really like you.
Not as horny as all of you.
Yeah, people. I'm a much more reasonable person. Good Lord. So
please.
But like as a baby asexual who was still learning all this stuff and still just learning about the queer community in general, it was very alienating. And I didn't feel comfortable with myself for a very long time. And so it now, as it's being more talked about and people are being more accepting of it again, it's so wonderful for me to see all these baby asexuals who have a community and do get to learn about it. And
they have the language and the labels, and they know.
I was so glad when Tori came out as asexual to me, because I was like, oh my God, I can be there for you. Mm-hmm. I can like be your little asexual guru.
It was also kind of a like, finally you figured it out.
Yes, that too. That was like, oh thank God.
I'm just your little asexual guru.
It was like yeah, I knew.
Every baby asexual, I think, needs one of those now. Just go find your asexual guru. They'll lead you down the path. Sorry, Tori, what were you going to say?
But like what Adair was saying, I feel like a lot of people feel that way, of like feeling like they're not quite queer enough and they're not quite straight enough, and they don't have a place, which I am so happy with the way that the LGBTQ community has been growing and growing in all these micro labels. I think a lot of people shrug those micro labels and are like, it's just too much to understand. But they give people that feel this, I'm not quite right, a
Yeah.
label that they can be
Yeah.
like, look, and there are other people.
Right.
And I think that's so amazing and wonderful.
Oh yeah, my mom, my mom is one of those people. I've told her, "Oh, I'm asexual. I'm biromantic. I'm non-binary. I'm cool with being called a lady and all that, but and it's always like, well, I don't want you to put too many labels on yourself." And I'm like, but
This
I like,
helps me define myself.
yeah,
Like this
I
helps
like,
me be more who I am.
I like knowing that there is a name and there are people like me and there's a community.
I always think of these labels when people say, "Oh, don't label yourself. You're just putting yourself in a box." And it's like, no, these labels are answers to questions that I have had for a long, long time. It's this blank, this question that has had this blank space for so long and nothing has fit. And then finally you find that thing that answers that question, be it queerness or neurodivergency, or there's so many different things. And when that finally gets answered, you're like, oh my gosh, now I can even embrace more so of who that is because I have the answers to it.
Yeah, you're like, I understand why my brain does this or why I get up to do one task.
No, my mom talks about the mental health thing. It's
I feel like we all have those family members that don't quite understand, no matter how many. Like my mom, when I first came out as asexual, and I think asexuality in particular, this is a big issue, but my mom said, why do you have to tell me about your sex life? And I'm like, but it's not about my sex life, because people who are gay, that isn't something that is necessarily,
it's not sexual by default.
It's not sexual by default, right? There are little kids who can be gay, and it's very obvious because they have crushes, right? Crushes are a romantic attraction. Little kids don't have sexual attraction. That's something that comes with puberty. So honestly, all little kids are asexual, right? And you can age out of it into a person who has sexual attraction. So I think a lot of times people are like, well, asexuality, all kids are that. You just haven't gotten to a point in your life that you had the right thing happen to you. And it's just like, so it's a harder thing because because I'm biromantic, I have romantic relationships or had romantic relationships in my life with a lot of different people, and no matter their gender. And yes, that's something that people from the outside can see, but so asexuality, I feel like a lot of times when people feel like they can't necessarily come out because people are like, why are you telling me about your sex life?
Yeah.
Why do I need to know about that? I don't need to know about that. Just live your life. And it's just like,
did you know
it's still my identity.
That is actually during this whole like asexual people aren't queer, that was like a thing that people who are against asexuals would be saying, telling us that you're asexual inherently has to do with your sex life and sexual activities. So it's inappropriate to tell us that.
I got a lot of questions about,
and it would be like my lack of sex life is appropriate. Like,
right.
I got a lot of questions when I came out about how my husband felt about that. How does that work with your husband? How does he feel about that? And I'm just like, that's not something I'm gonna tell you right now.
It's just it's like when people feel that they need to know whether a person has a penis or a vagina. You don't need to know. Why is this of importance to you? Why is it important that the person sitting next to you, you need to know what's between their legs? It's like, it's the same thing. And it's just so, who gives you the right to need to know this information about me? Do you need to know this so bad that it's going to help you proceed with your day?
My husband and I are raising our kiddo gender neutrally, and so nobody knows what their genitals are, and we're using they them pronouns with them. But people in my life are so are so funny. Like when I told them this, we didn't find out their genitals until they were born, and so people would continually ask me, "Oh, do you know if it's a boy or a girl?" And we'd be like, "Oh, we don't know yet." And then like I had a few people in my life that were just like, oh, well, we'll just know what based on either what they look like, or they insinuated that they were gonna peek in my kid's diaper, which is just so creepy.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
who are you? Who are you? And why do you
I have a
need to
list
know
of people I need
what
to
my
smack.
tiny chubby baby's genitals are?
Yeah.
Yeah, like where that, oh, that's so disturbing. It just,
I've got a
yeah,
list
it doesn't
of those
matter.
people.
It's so bizarre. Like,
Yeah,
it's a baby. It's a
it's a
baby
baby.
child.
Exactly. But
That's all
also,
you need to know.
yeah, it's just, it's mind blowing that, you know, it's so wild to me that people just think that they need to know like what's between your legs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I need to enjoy my coffee, and in order to do that, I need to know if that is a man or a woman. Like,
Are you planning to have sex with me? No? Then
perfect.
don't worry about it.
Are you my
This
doctor?
is, and I will take a coffee. Okay, well, I want to go back to when did you both realize, when did the term biromantic, when did you learn about that? And when you learned about it, were you initially like, you probably more so Adair because you've been asexual longer, you were probably like, that's what it is. Is that kind of like what happened when you found the term biromantic?
So I didn't know right off the bat that being asexual didn't mean you didn't want relationships, because that was like the one thing that made it take a while for me to be like, I guess that is what I am.
Right.
Because I was like, but I still want romance. I still want to be in a relationship. I want love and to be loved, you know. And then I was doing research, because that's what I do. I research stuff for fun. People were like, oh, I'm asexual, but I'm homoromantic. I'm biromantic. And I was like, oh, so they're separate. You can want romance and still not be into sex. That's okay, cool. At the time, I had procrastinated realizing I was bi, because I was like, well, I'm not going to date anyway, so like we'll just worry about that when I become interested in dating.
It was a back burner item.
Yeah, it was not so much
Like college
procrastination as like, now's not the time. I want
Let
to
that slowly simmer in the back
Yeah.
here while I figure other things out.
get it nice and flavorful. Put some spices in there.
Let me figure out how to do taxes first, and then I'm going to work
Yeah.
on the
Figure out what all those boxes mean. And then when I know what those are, we can worry about this.
I can't continue if I don't know what 519 means, but yeah.
A 1090 what? What's the difference? They call it a 1040 EZ. This is not easy.
The one without the EZ. That's the one you need.
Yeah. And so for the time when I was like, well, we'll just say I'm asexual, heteroromantic, because I'm not dealing with that right now, whatever. And then kind of second year of college, when had like settled in, I was like, boys, girls, non-binary people,
They're both pretty.
yeah, everyone's really
gorgeous,
pretty.
honestly.
Everyone's really gorgeous. Oh no. And then I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then I didn't come out. I didn't come out for so
basically the realization of, because I was breaking out of being that perfect Christian right in the beginning of my marriage. It kind of all fell apart in the best way. That I suddenly realized all these things about myself now that I was living with somebody I could have these conversations with. And so when I finally realized, it was definitely at the exact same time I realized I was ace, I realized I was biromantic. I couldn't have had one without the other. I needed to discover them at the same time. And I sent Adair a message and was like, oh my gosh, Adair, I'm asexual biromantic. And she goes, I'm also biromantic.
Yeah.
And I was like, no way.
No, so
I think you'd figured it out,
Yeah.
but you hadn't really told anybody.
Yeah, so it
wasn't.
It was the first day of Pride Month 2020. I just the timing was fantastic.
Fantastic.
No, but basically, I hadn't come out as bi kind of because of you, Tori, because at the time you were still a very good little Christian.
I was a good little Christian girl for a very long time.
And it was sort of
bisexual best friend.
Yeah. And it was sort of okay, Tori accepts the asexual thing because, well, you're just not going to have sex till marriage then. That's fine in Christianity, whatever. But I was very, and, but the impression it had always been was very much hate the sin, love the sinner sort of thing. And
which I lived by for many years, and I'm not proud of that, but it was my upbringing.
Yeah. And so
I'm proud that I've grown past it.
And and we were so close, and I love you so much. And I did not want to damage that friendship in any way, because regardless of that, we've been attached at the hip since we were 13. And we, I was afraid of that. And I never came out to anyone else before Tori, because if I can't tell Tori,
right,
how could I tell anyone else?
How could I tell? Exactly.
And so as time went on, especially kind of leading up to COVID and quarantine, I was like starting to get the feeling that like something shifted, and Tori's mind has changed a little on some things, but I'm still gonna hold on. And then that morning, Tori came out, and I was like, oh my God, thank goodness. Like, oh, okay. By the way. But I was just like, oh, huge relief off of my shoulders. And then immediately I came out to everyone else. I'm like, Tori has to be the first to know, but now let me go.
That. Well, this is perfect. This leads me into my next question. So, and I know, Tori, you're like newly asexual, biromantic, but what has it been like to just have each other and be like, literally, you're both the same. You're both asexual, you're both biromantic. So it's like, you not only understand the asexuality part, but you also understand that other part where it was like, no, I still want relationships. Like, Tori, you are married and you have a baby. Like, you still want these things in life. So what has it been like to just have each other through life?
I think without Adair, I don't know that I would know myself as well as I do. I think having somebody who is so
blunt,
but also so similar. We're very different people for sure, but
also the same person.
But also the same person.
But your upbringings are so different, and like especially for Tori, like just even having somebody to be like, hi, I'm with you. But continue, sorry.
But yeah, having Adair, I think it may have taken me many, many, many more years before I would have allowed myself to figure that out about myself. And that was just the first thing since I got married. That was the first thing I figured out. And once I figured that out, I figured out I'm also polyamorous. I'm also very neurodivergent. I'm also, oh my God, non-binary. Like, what are all the things? And my husband, thank God, is the most amazing person that I could have been with. Because he has just, ridden the wave of like, you're still amazing and I love you no matter who you are.
He may be a foot taller than me, but I've got a good left hook.
And I mean, yeah, since middle school, honestly, we knew that we were going to be in each other's lives forever, Adair and I.
Yeah.
And
we went to homecoming together.
Freshman
year of high school.
We went to homecoming together, not just because we didn't have to go with.
Like Tori asked me to go to homecoming with them. And like we spent the night at Tori's house and we slept on the pull-out couch together. And I was laying there, I'm like, we're going to be like best friends for the rest of our lives, right? Like literally, not just like, oh, you're my best friend, we're going to be friends forever, and then we get to high school. Like we're best friends till we die.
Like literally, if we move to a different country, we're following the other person.
Yeah.
But I think without Adair, I wouldn't have been able to acknowledge these things within myself. And even being married, it was hard to question that, because I was like, I'm already married. And so what is the point of really understanding and exploring these things? And then coming to realize that, oh, I am polyamorous as well, was like, okay, it makes sense why I still, have a longing for these relationships. And I think my polyamory specifically for me is more leaning towards relationship anarchy, which is just a different way of experiencing relationships in your life. So specifically for me and Adair, we are partners.
Yeah.
We are life partners, but we are also partners to each other.
Mhm.
And then I also, my husband is
Partner.
my husband, he's also my partner.
Yeah.
And so,
I used to joke he was the other woman because
Like, no. I was here first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, but it's just, it's all a learning experience, and having someone with you that can point out things that they see from an outside perspective
Yeah.
and also help you through your own experience while blossoming in their own experience is just so cool to have and to see and to experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, I didn't have many friends growing up. I was like a very liberal kid with very liberal parents growing up in Texas. I was very neurodivergent but undiagnosed, and so I had like a few friends, but it was not an unconditional friendship. I think it was, there were conditions. I couldn't act too weird, or they wouldn't want to be friends with me, sort of thing. And so I met Tori and we became friends, and it was very much this kind of, for the first time, like a fully like unconditional friendship that I felt secure in. I didn't have to act different. I didn't have to hide things about me. It was
we were just as weird together as we were on our own, and it just got better together.
And yeah, it just something clicked, and I went through a lot of hard times throughout our friendship. I struggled a lot with my mental health. There were some really, really bad times there. My dad had some pretty serious health problems our last year of high school, and Tori was there for it. Yeah. And Tori stuck with me, and Tori helped me. And I don't know if any of the friends that I'd had before, from Texas, would have ever stuck through that.
Great.
And so, and that's not to badmouth them if somehow they ever listen to this, right? But right,
it's just
you just find out your true people who will stick with you when it's hard times too, and when you're not at your best. That's you find those ones that are there. And
to go through, all that struggle, and you go home, and sure, you can talk to your parents about it, you can be with your family about it, and that does help. But they're so close to the situation. You're their child. You live with them. In the case with my dad's health problems, he's the source of this anxiety, and he has to get better. So I can't bother him with that sort of thing. And have someone that I could go to and just be there and have that support of someone who is not within the situation the same way my family was. I genuinely think that's what got me through that. I'm not gonna cry because I sound awful when I do that. But when my dad had to spend a few days in the hospital, and Tori was house sitting nearby, and so I just went and stayed with them. And it was Tori has been pretty much
we like to say that I am Adair's emotional support human.
Yes. My major in college was design, and I applied the first time and I didn't get in, and it kind of threw off my whole college plan. And I called Tori crying. Tori came up and went to classes with me, took an exam, actually. Tori, I had an exam. I had an art history exam that day.
It was Korean art history, I believe, was
East Asian art history.
Yeah.
But it was the Korean unit.
It was the Korean unit, and I know nothing about Korean art.
It's the exam.
I did get 36%.
Yes. So basically, they passed out the test, and Tori's like, well, let's just see how I do. And And it was so funny because then we got the test results back, and Tori, because you got to put in like your student ID number and all this, and Tori just kept writing, not a student, not a student, not ID number 0000. And so like a week later, after these had all been graded, my professor comes up and is like, so I had something happen with this test that has never happened before in my life.
Yep.
We had someone who is not a student here.
Not even like not in this class,
not even
just
like
not
just doesn't go to Western at all.
We don't know if she even lives in the state.
Yeah, we have no clue who this person was. And they took this exam. And I was like, cool, great. And I went up after class to the professor. I'm like, that was my friend. They were there to support me. What did they get? Did they pass?
Serious.
And statistically, you should have gotten a 50%. So I don't know.
That is.
It could have been, I'm dyslexic. It could have been 63 or it could have been 36. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I do remember.
It was not a passing grade.
Yeah.
I
Probably 36 then.
Hey, you had a leg up on me though. You were actually in the class.
Right,
showed up for the class.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh, the anxiety of like taking an exam though in the class, and it like I'm not even going to be graded on. I was so nervous.
Yeah.
I just have to keep reminding myself this doesn't mean anything for anything in my future at all.
Also,
like I don't have to worry about this. It's just going in the garbage.
That class.
My sister-in-law was in that class, and Adair and I were sitting in there getting ready to take the exam, and my sister-in-law came in and she goes, "Tori, what are you doing here?"
And I turn around and my face, you can tell I've been crying for like a week after. I turn around, my face is all red and swollen. I'm like, she's here for me.
Don't let it leave. Oh my gosh. That is hilarious. I love that.
But yes, I'm her
That's
emotional
the same
support
thing.
human.
That's the same thing I just like picked
I
up.
love that emotional support human. I just love how close you guys are. And even like, regardless of having each other to like, you know, talk with like being asexual and biromantic with, like you guys are each other's people, and that's just amazing. Okay, another question I have for you guys. So specifically when you were in high school, so I know like Tori, so maybe Adair can answer a little bit more to this, but then Tori, you can also like vouch for what Adair was going through in high school. So how was it being in high school and being openly asexual?
Ooh, so I did get several comments, you know,
Right.
like that's not a real thing.
Yeah.
And oh, you just haven't met the right person yet. You'll meet the right person. And you know, I did get one dude be like, I could fix that.
Like, please keep walking.
I said, you're gonna have to fix your leg first. Because I'm gonna kick it.
Yeah.
Broken bones before you're
Yeah.
ever gonna be able to fix. I use air
Yeah.
quotes.
Yeah.
Fix.
So there was definitely some of that. I think the main thing for me was just that struggle, like, where do I even fit in? Because we had a GSA. First of all, I hated the teacher who ran the GSA.
She was real creepy.
What's
she was
GSA?
Gay Straight Alliance.
Okay, got it. So
Yeah.
it's like the after club school thing.
Yeah, this teacher invited a student over to her house a couple times.
Yeah,
And
she was a real bad teacher, and she was a really creepy adult.
she implied that I slept naked.
Okay, yeah, no, that's
She was not. She got fired a few years after we graduated.
I was
and
gonna
that was
say, like, we gotta go to the authorities on that one.
Yeah. And so for two reasons I didn't go to GSA. One, I just could not stand her. And two, I was very much worried that if I went there, I'd get kind of the same thing that people online would get of, well, you're not really part of this community. You need to leave. This is
Not gay or straight. You know.
Yeah. And yeah. So and then I didn't want to talk to my parents about it because I can't talk about that with them without having to kind of talk about sex.
right.
And no teenager, no 15-year-old girl wants to sit in front of her dad and say, hey, don't get aroused by people. Right? Like, and I think the thing that sucked so much is that when I wanted to tell people, like, this is like, this is why I'm not dating. And really, that was why I never dated, aside from the fact that I was kind of weird and generally people weren't attracted to me. Was just like, I don't want to get rejected for that.
Right.
Because in high school, that's when hormones are crazy and puberty, and people want to try that. People want to try and have sex. And a lot of people were. And I was afraid that I'd be expected to do that. And that if I didn't do that, I'd get ostracized. And also part of that is just being a woman or being perceived as a woman.
Exactly.
If you have sex, you're a slut. Right. And you get ostracized for that. And if you don't have sex, then you're a prude and you get ostracized for that.
And there's like no in between because of
and there's no in between.
Yeah.
And also the fact of the matter is, people who are not asexual or are not very much a part of the queer community have no clue what asexuality is.
Right.
And I was out, but I stopped coming out to people. I was like, the people who need to know.
Yeah.
And that's it. Because I got so tired of basically having to give a 20-minute lecture.
Yeah.
On what my sexuality was. And no, it's not that I'm choosing to be abstinent and waiting till marriage. Right. It's not that I'm a late bloomer. It's not that I've been traumatized by something. I just genuinely don't feel attraction in that way.
Yeah.
And yes, I think people are hot. But again, I don't get horny about it.
Right.
Right? Like,
I think that's something that people don't put the connection with about asexuality is a lack of sexual attraction. It has nothing to do with having sex, actually. And you can have sex and you can not have sex and still be asexual.
Also, it has nothing to do with sex drive either.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. But you could be physically attracted to so many people, and it's different,
There's that aesthetic attraction. It's like people are gorgeous, and I can, say like, wow, that is a beautiful human. I don't want to have sex with them.
The closest I get to that is like looking at someone and being like, if they wanted to kiss me, that would be pretty cool. Yeah.
Like, that'd be okay. I wouldn't say no.
I would not say no to a makeout with this person, but it's never
a cuddle.
Or a cuddle, but it's never like, damn.
Right.
I want to have sex with them. It's like,
right. Yeah, and I think that people just maybe look at asexuality and be like, oh, you have no physical
you have no sex drive. Maybe you need to take meds for that.
Oh my God. Yeah. For a long time, asexuality was listed as a mental illness.
Yeah. That's just wild to me. But I think people think it's just one extreme. Like, you're just so far over here, you don't find people attractive. You don't find doing something that is pleasurable for people to do. Like, you don't it's not that extreme. Like, and like you said, like, now there's other like umbrellas and like you can identify as being biromantic and it just makes more sense. But I think, people think of asexuality and they're like,
what is that? And you have to give a 20-minute lecture.
Exactly. And that's why, honestly, when I tell people I'm queer, I just start out by telling them that I'm bisexual.
Oh, yeah. Okay, perfect.
I just tell them that I'm bisexual.
If you're not ready to have that 20-minute lecture, it's just easier to say, I'm bisexual.
Yeah. You don't have to do that every day. You shouldn't be able to do it. But especially now, Adair, doing this for so long, you're like, I'm going to say this because then I can skip this and I can go on my day without having to be the teacher.
But here's the thing. Even if people are biphobic or they don't think it's real, they know what it means.
Right.
So I can say, I'm bisexual and leave it at that. Right. And then if we get closer and that becomes a thing, it can be like, well, I'm actually this.
Yeah.
And
like
so
the lady at the grocery store, ma'am, I'm bi. Thank you. Yeah. I'm gonna go on with my day.
Yeah, it's just so much easier to go about it that way because
that's why things like this podcast are so amazing because the more we get to talk about asexuality and the many different facets of it, because it is a huge umbrella. I mean, the sex neutral, sex positive, and sex averse, like those
sex
are
favorable.
Sex favorable.
And sex, there's sex averse and sex repulsed. There's like
those are just a couple subsets of asexuality.
Demisexuality, gray asexuality.
I am demisexual, but those other ones that you mentioned, I have no idea. Like I love
Yeah,
that.
so those are subsets of you can be asexual and be sex favorable
Yeah.
or sex neutral or sex repulsed or sex negative. Like
Yeah.
all of the things, and those aren't necessarily things that you need to tell everybody, but
Yeah.
like
That's
because
like
that's
maybe
more about your sex life than
yeah,
anything.
that's
You
something
meet
where it's
another
like,
asexual,
okay,
you're like, hey, are you these?
like if you have a partner and you're like,
Mhm.
okay, so just so you know,
Of course.
like okay, I'm sex favorable. I enjoy the act of sex. I
Right.
just don't feel like I just don't feel attraction, or I'm sex repulsed. The idea of having sex is absolutely disgusting to me.
Right.
I would never do it. Right. Like,
But I think having these conversations are so good because while it might be TMI, while some people might not want to know that about you, people who are experiencing these things, being able to know that there are different subsets and that there are different ways to experience asexuality, such a great way for others to go, oh, that's what I am. That's what I have. I'm part of a Facebook group. It's an asexual like memes and support. So you get a little hilarity and also get to, really help some people. And it's so wonderful because there are some things that I didn't even know and I'm still learning. And
I'm learning a lot on this call, so it's amazing. Yeah, I like you said, Tori, it's cool that we can all talk about this more. And like when we were talking earlier, and like I think it was probably people from both sides of your family, like, oh, stop with all the labels, stop with all the labels. It's like, no, these help me like better understand myself. So therefore others can better understand me, those who need to understand, not the lady at the grocery store, but my best friend or this partner that I'm starting to see, or my child. Like it helps, especially when asexual people and everybody under the LGBTQI plus like spectrum has always been like ostracized, but especially to be like belong even with us, like that's these help us.
And I mean, I feel like oftentimes people always say, young people are too young. They're too young to be told about these things, to be expected to know about these things. And I just would like to say, let's all think back to when we were that age.
Yeah.
What we were doing and experiencing and thinking, because all children are going through that.
Right.
And being able to have these things out there in the universe, I think young kids are going to have such a much harder, but also much easier time having the internet around.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so accessible because
major pros, major cons, but there
yes,
are a lot of pros though
for
too.
sure.
Yeah.
But in this sense, I feel like it's going to be a lot easier because, if I had heard this kind of podcast when I was younger, I would have been like, holy crap, look at that. That's me.
Yeah.
Like,
fine, this is normal. I'm normal. Like everyone's normal in their own body.
It's about normalizing those things.
Exactly.
Because it is normal.
It is normal.
These things have existed for all of humanity.
Right.
And the people who say this is that like any sort of queer identity is unnatural.
A mental illness.
First off, homosexuality alone occurs throughout the animal kingdom. Actually, bats display the highest rates of homosexuality in any mammal. There is a species of primates called bonobos.
Oh my God.
And they're bisexual, like almost by default. Like sex and sexual favors is basically currency within their, oh, you helped me with this, so okay, right? Like it's like this is something that just happens. It's
natural.
not like
it's part of natural. Yeah.
And also, eating your young in the wild is natural.
Yeah.
So why are we saying that things are unnatural?
Yeah.
Because
natural doesn't mean
natural
good.
doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, exactly. True. Like throw that out the window, because let me tell you some things that are actually natural in some other environments.
Have you seen deep sea creatures? Do you think that natural has anything like any merit? No, it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and thank you so much just for saying those things. I mean, and like I'm sitting here with way less knowledge than like the two of you have, and I'm like, and like part of me feels like insecure about that in a way. It's like, oh, well, who gives me the right to like do this podcast? But it's like, this is why, because I get to talk to more people and like, wow, I just found out what biromantic means today. And I'm going to do a lot more Googling this evening because I'm very excited to learn more about this. But it's just,
We'll make you a little fun fact finder. It's okay.
yes, please.
I'll
My
come visit you.
asexual
I'm like 20
gurus.
minutes away.
Finder. No. No, but yeah, it's so great that we could just have a space to talk about it. And with the years of experience that you both have had and like being asexual first for like, yourself, or excuse me, Adair, and then being like,
Oh
oh,
my God, it's almost 10 years now that I've been.
wow.
No. Oh no. Oh, I've just started a crisis. Give me a moment. Oh no. Oh God. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
I'm excited to do some Googling tonight because I'm just so pumped. But Tori, I have another question for you because I love that. I mean, I've met your husband. He's amazing. We did maternity photos and they're so cute. And I just love that he was such support. Like it reminds me of my friends who, my friend Dan, when he was transitioning, he was formerly, Danielle, and now he's Dan, and like his partner was with him the entire time. Like it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter if you're going through a sex change or you're on T or estrogen. I will love you for you. And I think that's so beautiful that you have that in Dustin. But how has it been? Because I mean, you've talked about it a little bit briefly, but how identifying as asexual, being in a marriage, it's just probably like you said, it's helped you just understand yourself more. But you've obviously gotten like critiques from Christian family members, which, obviously you're going to.
Adaire's
my hit list. And I do mean like just like a literal hit. I'm not gonna kill anyone.
Yeah, I just want to punch you. That's it.
A good backhand.
Punch, whatever it is. That's what I mean. But how has it been like just being asexual and being married?
Yeah. So I mean, going in, and this is going to be more specifically about my experience. But I think a lot of luck was involved. Honestly, I got so lucky. But going into my marriage, I definitely, and this is going to go a little into explaining how I was through high school, being asexual, but not knowing it. So going into my marriage, I was very excited about sex. I never had sex before. And I was very excited about it because all the things I'd done previously, I was like feeling very meh about, but I was like, it's going to be this wonderful thing. It's going to be amazing.
Because you're with your husband, the person you're meant to do this.
And
I waited until marriage, and here we are.
And it was,
you didn't even kiss on the mouth till your wedding.
Yeah, my husband and I's first mouth kiss was at our wedding. We'd done like forehead and cheek kisses before that, but our first mouth kiss, which sounds, I hate saying mouth kiss, and now we've said it 3 times. Anyway, moving on. And so I was really excited about having sex. And then, of course, wedding nights are always amped up and honestly the worst.
Right, exactly.
But after that, I was just kind of fighting. I was like, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Sure, orgasms are great. I don't think anyone, I truly don't think anyone can say
that an orgasm is not fun.
That an orgasm doesn't feel nice, because that's literally kind of a definition of an orgasm.
Yeah. We all can have that. They're normal.
They're great. You just don't need a person for it.
Right.
Exactly.
That's just so much more messy.
Like, very, very.
But then you got into that and you were like, oh, this is okay.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so basically I was just like, orgasm's nice, but the lead up and the in between and all that is just unnecessary.
I say never having had sex.
And extra. And then of course I have a husband and a partner who really enjoys all of that. And so it was very hard to like figure that out, and then also to talk to him and be like, so here's the thing, I don't really, and I'm sex neutral,
right?
And
Same.
so I'm like, I'll do it because I know you like it and I don't mind it.
Right.
But also I'm not going out of my way. Like,
Mhm.
so my husband is usually the one who kind of, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, or just flat out asks and is like, any chance? Like, and usually I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, we could do that tonight.
Yeah.
But it was very much a like, I don't know how he's going to react at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And he's amazing. Like I've said, I can't stress that enough
Yeah.
that he's wonderful. But, it was that like, how is this person that I'm married to now going to react? Definitely a I don't know, an advocate of having sex before marriage now.
Yes. Yeah.
Like living with somebody before getting married, like all
Like
of that.
even as an asexual, I'm not going to marry someone unless I've had sex with them a couple times.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Even if
Yeah,
you're super Christian, religious, just do whatever you want to do.
I should clarify, I am an atheist now.
Love it. I figured so.
I have had the deconstruction journey. I am no longer a Christian.
Yeah.
But yeah, so wrapping up my thoughts, going into marriage, I was so excited about it, and then to be feeling like I had let myself down, and then feeling like I had let my partner down, and then slowly building myself back up from there and going, no, this actually works. Knowing this about myself has made our relationship better. And I've been able to explore even more about my identity. And of course, like I said, he was just riding every wave, being like, you're Tori. No matter what identity or label you find fits and defines you the best way, you're still you. You're still the soul that I fell in love with. And that's not going to change because your pronouns have suddenly become something different. Right. And while there is a level of that with, his sexual attraction of me, right? When I am having a more mask day and look more masculine, he's not going to feel as sexually attracted to me, right? Because he's not attracted to men. Right. But oh gosh, words. Having a baby turns your brain to mush. I'm just gonna say that. I have pudding for brains right now.
What flavor of pudding?
Strawberry.
Oh, that's a good flavor.
Yeah.
Strawberry matches your hair, so
matches my hair.
Yeah. Does hair dye change the flavor?
Do you think it might?
Do you think if we dyed it brown, it would be like a chocolate pudding?
Like chocolate, cinnamon, something. Yeah.
I'm a chocolate.
Adding it to the Google search list later.
Now I completely lost my train of thought. I apologize.
Yeah, so that's okay. I really like what you just said though, because see, you said, if I'm more mask some days, like he's not going to be as sexually attracted to me.
Right.
Not that he doesn't still not love you.
Yeah, I think romantically, he's still
people are like, oh, I have
very much into me. But that like visual sexual attraction, he's not going to necessarily feel that. And I know that. And then of course I've known people that have gone through transitions with their partners, and their partner has then discovered within themselves that, oh, I'm not straight. Right. And I'm bi or I'm pan, right? Those kind of things. And that's wonderful when you find a partner like that. And it's definitely a lot of luck.
Yeah. I feel like that trips up a lot of people in relationships, because I think, and like, a lot of obviously straight people, and I'm thinking obviously a lot of like maybe cisgendered straight like, I need to like want to bone you every second of every day or this isn't going to work. And it's like, I just love that when you said that, you're like, no, he's not going to be as sexually attracted to me on the days when I decide to shave all my hair and I'm, wearing clothes that aren't feminine or tight or whatever. But that doesn't matter. That's your husband and he loves you for you. And you don't have to put on this show to like a little peacock and like be like sexually viable or like good enough for somebody. And I think some people get so stuck in that. And it's like, love your person for your person. If you don't want to bang them one day, that doesn't mean that like it's done. We have to move on. This is not going to work.
Right. And I think attraction fluctuates constantly. And through as you age, I feel like that's a lot of time married couples get, to their 20th, 30th year, and they're like, the attraction isn't there anymore. And I'm like, no, it's
Well,
just...
you're 60 soon.
But also,
have you considered it's menopause? It's not like he could do anything about it at his age either. So just like maybe have a nice time at the zoo.
But also attraction fluctuates. That's like that, the year after marriage, everyone always tells you you're going to hate them or something. And it's just like, no, you gotta
maybe see a therapist about that.
Everyone should be in therapy,
yes,
and every couple should be in a couple's therapy place.
I think that's such an interesting thing because, I feel like, and that goes back to being like asexual and feeling so alone in this world that only heightens sexuality. Like, oh, I have to be sexually aroused to this person in order to be in a committed relationship, in order to have a long-term thing. Like,
we live in such a hypersexualized society. It's
there was a study done, which I love bringing this up because I'm a doula and I work with clients, in their most vulnerable state, and they're always like, don't look at me when I'm pushing a baby out. And it's like, no, we're in a hypersexualized society. Yeah. There are societies in this world where the women don't wear bras and don't wear tops. Oh, and I've heard people go like, how do they get anything done? Won't the men always be aroused? And it's like, no, because that state of arousal goes away almost immediately once it becomes a norm.
A normal thing. And like giving birth, this is natural. Like, don't be self-conscious. It's natural.
That reminds me of, I can't remember if it's like Finland or Norway, but it's one of those Nordic countries. They have a saying about Americans and how sexual everything is.
Oh, yeah.
They look at us and they say they've never seen their grandma naked, because in these Nordic countries, it's very common saunas and you're just
topless beaches
and you're just naked.
Bathhouses,
everyone sees bodies that are aged, that are like all this, and that mystique of like, goes away. Oh my God, taking off their clothes, right? Like, it's just matter of fact.
Got something underneath,
And also they have much healthier views on aging and how your body ages.
Love that.
There are so many, like all these people who get like breast augmentations because they're 57 and their boobs are starting to get droopy. Like, that's
what, you're not 20 anymore. It's fun.
Like you've had 3 children and nursed them all, and also you're almost 60 and you're in menopause. Like, that's gonna happen. It's okay.
Yeah, you've basically been nursing for the equivalent of 2 full years. So like, your boobs are gonna change.
In America specifically, we have a very attached viewpoint of our teenage bodies.
Yes.
The stage from becoming a teenager to becoming an adult, a lot happens with your body, but you're very focused on that teenage look.
Yeah.
Which is, I understand, because that's when most people are going through puberty and getting that first attraction.
And that kind of sticks with you.
But it's just so funny because it's like, that's still a child. They are a teenager.
Yeah. And like looking back at old pictures of myself, it's like, I wish I looked. No, I don't. I don't wish I looked like that anymore, because I was a child. Yeah. I was a prepubescent,
right?
Flat chested, flat tummied. I mean, I was never flat tummied. I always had a little muffin top.
It's very cute. I like your breast.
Yeah.
Very cute.
Yeah. I hate the sexualization of like kids and teenagers. And it's like, are we forgetting that these are still children? Like,
you go shopping for clothes and you go to the little boys section, quote unquote, and like it's totally reasonable stuff, and then you go to the little girls section and like 10-year-old sizes, booty shorts,
crop tops. Yeah.
Listen, but also, if we weren't sexualizing everything constantly, booty shorts and crop tops, I feel like
they're comfy.
Should be okay, comfy clothes.
Right, you're right. See, there was me going like, sexualizing it, because when I think of booty shorts and crop tops, I'm thinking of like a woman with like her ass hanging out and she's like in a music video and like she's being sexualized. But no, you're right. Like, it's just, but we've got to the stage of thinking that.
even babies.
Oh
This
my
is one of
God.
the things, this is the
Yeah.
pet peeve of mine. I don't love baby clothes with words on them. There are very few that I have. Usually they're just like the ones that I have say like love or cutie pie,
Yeah.
just little things. And most of those I still don't
You
love.
had like a little
But
dinosaur one that said rar.
yeah, little
Yeah.
dinosaur, the ones, rawr. That's cute. But also raising my kid gender neutrally has been great because I don't get any of the little boy or little girl onesies that are so disgusting,
Right.
like little onesies that said something like mom just wanted a back rub.
Yeah.
Or
I hate my thighs.
I hate little girl onesies that say I hate my thighs, or little boy onesies that are talking about their mom's boobs, drinking milk, like dad'll have a beer, I'll have a boob, or something. Like
Yeah,
they're
or there's
just so
sexualization on children's clothing, baby clothing.
No, and like, this
Gosh.
would bug me. So my little sister was in daycare for infancy because both my parents
Yeah.
worked at that time. And so we'd go to the infant room at the daycare and drop her off. And, there are little boys, little girls. And if a little boy was like, even like looking at one of the little girls,
Yeah.
and they're babies, right? They can see like 2 feet in front of them at this point. They'd be like, "Oh, he's a little ladies' man," or like, "She's gonna be a heartbreaker. You're gonna have to
Right.
beat the boys up with a stick." And I'm like, and even then, I was like,
yeah, or dad's gonna have to lock her up till she's 16.
Yeah, or you're gonna have to watch her when she gets older, she's really,
It's so gross. That's one of the reasons that we're raising when we're non-binary, and
yeah.
I don't like saying that. We're raising them gender neutrally.
Neutral.
Non-binary is an identity, which I don't want to force
put on them.
They can't make that yet, but
They can't make the decision.
Yeah.
But so we're raising them gender neutrally. And that's one of the reasons is because I was like, then people can't be creepy about it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Then they can't.
Yeah,
They just have to sit and wallow in their confused, uneducated inability to grow.
Yeah.
Educated and just
Not being educated is not a flaw. It
Yeah.
is
No.
a flaw.
Yeah.
But if you're uneducated and not willing to learn, then there's a problem.
Yeah, I was trying
I'd like to clarify that.
For sure. Ignorant is what I was trying to think of. People,
Yes. Yeah.
Willful ignorance.
willful ignorancy. It's just, yeah. And I had never thought about like babies' clothing like that. Like that is just
Disgusting.
yeah. Well,
Mhm.
it's really interesting.
I think the only thing we ever got my little sister that had words on it was like a bib that I picked out, and it was like 2 little zebras, and it said, "I love my big sister," and that's like the only thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's adorable.
yeah. I don't think she loves me as much as she did when she was a baby, but
Oh my gosh.
teenagers.
Guys, this has been so much fun. I want to close off and ask you both to give like a little general statement, not like a statement, but like if you were to give baby asexuals an advice, or people actually like better than this, like if you were to give people who are asexual advice, like so someone like me who needs to like explore more of like, am I like biromantic or am I sex neutral and like all these things, like what advice or like what do you want to like what would you say to people who are trying to further understand where they fall in this big giant ambiguous umbrella?
You don't need answers right away, and answers can change, that's I think the big one is kind of this sense of what I struggled with so much was this sense of like, I need to know exactly what I am, and I need to know now, because I hate not having control. I hate not having all the knowledge. And I think that's what made my journey more difficult, in all honesty. To just accept, okay, I don't have the answer to that right now.
That's okay.
And that's okay. I will find out.
When you are ready and when you're like, okay, this is something I have actually been struggling with. I'm now ready to go down this path further. I love that.
And if you decide to experiment with something and it turns out and you're not this thing, even though you've spent years saying you are, that's fine. There's nothing wrong. You have simply learned new information about yourself and have now, changed. There's, I have infinitely more respect for straight people who have questioned their sexuality, who have questioned their gender identity, and have experimented with it, and then said, no, I think I'm just straight, actually, than straight people who just don't care about that. Like, it's okay. It's okay to question. It's okay to explore, do research, question things, learn things. Because at the end of the day, finding out you were wrong isn't bad.
Right.
You still have that answer.
You
for
still
yourself.
have your answer. And all that's happened is you've learned more about you.
Exactly. You don't have to be on this one trajectory of life that you think you have to be on. You might be, when you turn 40, you're like, hey, this is also something new about me. I love what you said there. Like,
you're always changing.
It will change. It will always change. Yeah.
You're never going to be the same person. I'm not the same person I was a month ago.
Yeah.
And you can't expect yourself to remain the same.
We are beings that are constantly in motion, constantly changing, growing. There is no definite singular answer.
Right.
And even if you think you found that definite singular answer, it's going to grow, it's going to become deeper. Everything is not two-dimensional. Like it's not a flat yes or no. There's that areas of gray, it's
like Tori. Here's one thing. We joke we're the same person. We have all the same identities. Tori came out as non-binary. They knew they were non-binary before I did. And I said, well, that's okay. We don't have to be the same person. Yeah. And then like 4 months later, I was like, hey, right.
You know what? I figured about myself now. It's
everyone does things in their own time.
We are constantly evolving as people. If we didn't, life would be really weird
and boring.
You know?
It'd be really, it'd be terrible. I feel bad for those who they don't wish for growth either. They don't wish for change. They don't wish for exploration. Like that's what
I think a lot of that is fear. I think a lot of that is fear to change and like, I don't want to get political, but it just is just an example, is a lot of ignorance in politics is why people feel so strongly about stuff. And when people learn and grow and say, hey, I was wrong about that, people feel guilt, like not, what am I trying to say? People feel bad about saying that because they're admitting that they were wrong, but no, they just didn't know what they now know.
You're not gonna have all the answers. That's cool. That's fine.
And there's so much more respect, like Adair was saying, for people who have tried to learn, who have taken the steps to either learn about themselves or learn about the world around them or learn about other people's experiences and come to a new conclusion. That's what we all should be doing, is constantly learning about ourselves, the people around us, and the world around us.
Do your research, do some experiments, and just be okay with the answers you get.
Exactly.
And be okay to change how you feel about something and your opinion about things if you do.
Like
everything is fluid and everything is completely insignificant in the vastness of the universe. So don't worry about it too much and just have a good time while you're here.
Exactly. Enjoy your life. Drop what you think you know to explore new things. And and also like I feel like a lot of people are like they have like that sense of pride, which is like they won't explore because they're like, no, I'm straight.
I'm right.
Specifically,
I know that I'm straight. There's no way I couldn't be. And then, like me, who grew up thinking I was straight, and then all of a sudden went, wait a minute, this explains so much. Like I definitely thought I was straight for all these years, and all of a sudden, look at me now.
I will say, my dad never experimented. My dad is like the singular most heterosexual man I have ever met. But also like 50% of his cousins, and also one of the his aunt, they were like all gay. So I feel like if he grew up around that, maybe he didn't need to experiment and he was just like, okay, cool, I don't want that.
And hey, your dad's pretty old.
My dad's
You
pretty
might
damn
not
old.
know about.
Yes.
Like,
It's hard to, with the generations, the differences.
wasn't relevant ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know that his aunt was gay until earlier this year. Like, he's been telling me stories about her since I was 3. And then, like, he just casually in conversation mentions, oh, yeah, and this aunt was a lesbian and had a partner that was also my aunt that I've never spoken about. And I'm just like, why are you dropping this lore now? What the hell?
Like family lore.
The family lore. I'm sitting here like, oh, is this like, are you sending me on a quest now? Is that what, like, am I about to go on a journey and this is why you revealed to me?
Oh my God.
Dads are like that. They'll just tell you the most
for sure.
facto information.
Yeah. And it's a generational thing too. But yeah, I love your guys' advice. Just, keep going at life, have fun with it, and you will continuously learn along the way.
I want to clarify because I just played off of what Adair said, but I have some specifics. And they're in the jumble of spaghetti that is my brain.
We've changed from pudding to spaghetti. It is more solid though. That's an improvement.
Now it's a tangle of thoughts that aren't quite connecting.
Right.
You can come out as many times as you need to. That is the first part, is you can come out as many times as you need to. And I know some people are like, it's so confusing. Everybody is constantly changing how they identify. And honestly, just go with it. Just go with the flow of what other people need to experience in their life. They're a non-binary lesbian.
Yeah.
You don't have to question that. That's how they identify.
They're a trans-masc lesbian.
They're a trans-masc lesbian. Like,
that much to you, you will, you will call them by their correct pronouns and all this stuff. Just let them.
If you are close enough with this person that they're willing to share an explanation of how they feel with you, that is wonderful and awesome, and you should appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Like, that you are close enough with this person. But in all reality, we're going to come across so many people that have all these different labels, and that may not make all of them. Yeah, they might not make sense to you. And so that's the second part. First part is you can come out as many times as you need to. Yeah. We're all fluid, right? We change, we evolve. The second part is use the labels that you feel comfortable with, that mean what they mean to you. Don't worry about what people are going to understand and what, if something doesn't quite make sense in the scheme of what people usually know about those labels. Right. Use the labels that you are comfortable with, and vice versa. Accept other people's labels, even if they don't quite make sense to you. Yeah. And Google is free. Yeah.
It is an evil corporation, but it's free.
But it's free, and it has a lot of answers out there for you. So if you aren't quite sure about something, Google it. And you're gonna say something disrespectful to someone, stop and just go Google it. That'll give you an answer.
Yeah. Also, as much as I hate a lot of the communities on Reddit, you will find a forum for anything on Reddit. Anything. There are so many. There's a forum on rats. I'm on there all the time just to look at cute pictures.
There's probably a specific asexual biromantic.
There are. Yeah. There are. There's multiple.
Yeah. And you could probably even narrow that down more.
And the people in them, as long as you are respectful, are going to be more than happy to answer any questions you have, whether you're trying to learn something about yourself or trying to understand someone Like, there's this idea, I think, that 1, you need to have the answers to everything, but 2, you need to figure it out all on your own.
Right.
Which isn't true. There's always going to be someone there who can give you answers.
Exactly. And
you just have to reach out.
And if you're not getting that from your friends or your family, know that that's okay. And sometimes that happens, but there's other people out there. There's strangers on the internet that will probably give you more clarity and information and make you feel more secure about yourself, just having the space to talk about something similar. Yeah. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting us to do this. Yeah. This is so cool.
You both, like, this was such a good episode, and I'm further inspired myself to just look into everything more and get more definitions locked down in my head. I don't
know everything now.
Exactly
There's so
right.
much to
There's
explore.
so much to explore.
Just
It was
enjoy
just,
your life and learn things when you want to learn them.
yeah, it was just so great to chat with you guys
All the time for
and
me.
learn even more. And you both are amazing, and I love your friendship. And yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so
All right, of course.